I got 20 plus security cameras. What might you think about my worldview, my outlook, my disposition? I wake up every day and I must be what?
Yeah.
What they mostly say is paranoid. And I get 100 people in the room simultaneously going paranoid. Like, you got 20 cameras, you're paranoid, right?
Yeah.
That dichotomy of we look at security as paranoia versus what we truly understand security is gaining control. It's systems in place. It's managing risk. Most of your employees, if they look at security as paranoia, they're not going to do anything regarding security because they don't want to live like that.
Yeah. So it's not resistance to the security itself. It's resistance to how it feels.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Between Fires and Futures. I'm your host, Tonya Terrell, and today we're talking about why employees still fall for scams. If you're a CISO or IT leader for that matter, you already know this. Security doesn't fail because you didn't buy the right tools. It fails because one human gets manipulated at the wrong moment. My guest today is Robert Siciliano. Robert's a security expert, private investigator, and #1 bestselling author who spent more than 30 years studying the tactics criminals use to exploit human behavior. He's been featured on major national media, including CNN, Fox News, The Today Show, and hundreds of television and radio appearances, helping people understand how scams actually work in the real world. Robert calls it the human blind spot, the reality that humans are wired to trust. Trust is our default, and attackers don't just hack systems, they hack people. We're going to talk about why awareness programs plateau, why employees often see security leaders as paranoid, and how AI deepfakes and voice cloning just changed the game for every enterprise. And before we jump in, I wanted to ground this in one stat that I saw, and that is this. The World Economic Forum reported that deepfake fraud cases surged 1,740% in North America alone between 2022 and 2023. So this is, a few years ago. And that losses from deepfake enabled fraud exceeded $200 million in Q1 of last year, 2025 alone. So let's get into it. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So you call it the human blind spot, right? So for CIOs and CISOs listening, what is that exactly? And why is it still the #1 reason security programs fail, even when the tech stack is strong?
Yeah. So the human blind spot essentially is the psychological instinct to trust what is familiar to us. Okay. It is what I consider the cognitive gap where biological trust overrides digital suspicion. Okay. We are wired to trust. That is our default. Always has been, is, always will be. And throughout the day, week, month, year, whenever we receive emails and phone calls and text messages, I mean, even, of course, the people that we are, in front of day to day, we want to and need to trust them. We are giving the benefit of the doubt all day, every day. Okay. And so bad guys know this. They use the truth and they twist it just a little bit. And that's generally how they get us. Our biological default to trust, essentially psychological shortcuts, heuristics. Criminals use this to bypass logic. Okay. It boils down to this biological impulse versus our intellectual understanding. It's hard to disconnect the two. The internal conflict is between our evolved survival instincts and our modern knowledge or lack of knowledge of digital risks. And when criminals essentially grab us emotionally, the intellect of understanding what those risks are generally does not kick in effectively because humans aren't wired to deal with the intellectual aspect when emotions kick in. And when it comes to predators and thieves and sociopaths and psychopaths who understand the art, and it is truly an art of manipulation, and most humans trusting by default, they're generally not prepared for this.
Yeah, this is so good. And I really think that this is the part, I've had a lot of conversations about cybersecurity with cybersecurity experts, but this is the part most of those conversations miss. And, another, in preparation for recording this, I did a little bit of research. And another thing that, I found staggering is the IBM's cost of a data breach report for 2025 said that the average the global average breach costs $4.4 million. That's the average breach. And the most common entry point is still phishing. So this really is a human problem. It's not a tooling problem.
Yeah.
And, I know when we were speaking, you said the employees often think their security leader is paranoid, and that perception actually kills adoption, right? So how does a security leader shift that story without watering down the risk?
So when I do a live presentation, whether it's in person or virtually, I ask a series of challenging questions meant to point out why humans avoid risk. And we do, okay? We have what I consider security aversion, right? It is essentially that natural human resistance to security protocols because people feel that they're uncomfortable, they're fear-based, sometimes they look at it as being intrusive. And so one of the first questions that I ask my audience is, like, I ask them, raise their hand. How many of you actually lock the doors to your home? Now, depending on where I am in the country, I might get, as much as 60, 70%. In some places, like I get less than 30%. It's 2026 and I still hear that all the time. And when I talk to realtors, depending on, what part of the country, and they sell houses, sometimes, like, when they go to sell the house, the homeowner has no idea where the keys are because they've never actually locked their doors. Like, security isn't a big priority for them. And I say, oh, so how many of you actually have a home security system? And if I get, 15% of the room, 20% of the room is a lot, that's a lot, which means like 80+% don't actually have home security systems. And then I ask a series of questions, like, to find out why, okay? And I point out that, like, in the US, every year, between 1 million and 1.5 million homes are burglarized every single year. So which means in the next 10 years, that's, 10 to 15 million homes burglarized. And then I, say, so why don't you have a home security system? And the answers I often get are, okay, well, we have insurance, so, our stuff is all set. I'm like, all right, I don't know if that's well thought out, but okay. And then my husband says, if they're going to break in, they're going to break in. What are we going to do? Which I call that, fatalist, right? So
Right.
they're challenging the value of the home security system with insurance, or criminals are much smarter than home security systems, which, okay. But then the number one answer that I get, and this is the reason why we look at security as something bad, is people say, we don't have a home security system because we don't want to live like that. And what they're truly saying is, I don't want a constant reminder that there are bad actors out there that might choose me in my home. I would rather essentially not have to worry about these things. I just want to be free. And they literally say, I just want to be free. I don't want to have to worry about these things. So therefore, a home security system will remind me of those things. So
it's
therefore,
denial, really.
it is truly denial.
Yeah.
It's truly denial. And denial actually is this wonderful psychological thing that many of us engage in kind of regularly. I mean, even getting in a car, getting on a plane, looking at things like climate change, like, we would not do a lot of things if we did not essentially engage in denial, because it allows us to avoid worry and fear and threats and anxiety. Like, we would rather just put the covers over our head and not think about these things.
Yeah.
And then in this process, I ask them and I tell them, like, I'm a guy that's got like 20 plus security cameras, which might be a little excessive, but I say, okay, I got 20 plus security cameras. What might you think about my worldview, my outlook, my disposition? I wake up every day and I must be what?
Safe.
Well, safe, yes.
Yeah. With that many security cameras, like,
that is a thinking person's answer. But
Yeah.
what they mostly say is paranoid. And I get 100 people in the room that are simultaneously going paranoid. Like, you got 20 cameras, you're paranoid, right?
Yeah.
And what that truly means is that when we look at risk management, when we look at somebody who engages in the process of security, like a CISO, that he or she must worry. They must live in fear. They must be paranoid. And they must always think that people are out to get them, which, the medical community calls paranoia a mental health dis-ease. And that dichotomy of, we look at security as paranoia versus what we truly understand security is gaining control. It's systems in place. It's managing risk. most of your employees, if they look at security as paranoia, they're not going to do anything regarding security because they don't want to live like that.
Yeah. So it's not resistance to the security itself, it's resistance to how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I say to them, I go,
I
listen,
get that.
exactly. And I say, listen, you don't put your seatbelt on because you worry, because you live in fear.
Right.
You put your seatbelt on because it's the smart thing to do. It gives you control. And once you reframe it like that, they're like, oh, yeah, that kind of does make sense.
Yeah, totally. And I want to shift over to training because that's something that we hear a lot, right? Like we're doing cybersecurity awareness training, compliance training, phishing simulations, all of that. That becomes the default. It's sort of the check the box. We did it. And this is why I'm excited to talk about your approach because there was a cybersecurity dive review, I think in late 2025, that looked at a bunch of studies and meta-analysis. And the takeaway really was that common cybersecurity awareness training doesn't reduce phishing susceptibility. And in some cases makes people more susceptible depending on how it's implemented. So why does that backfire? And what should it be instead?
Well, look, I don't know that instead is the right word. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that it should be in addition to, because first and foremost, certainly, compliance training is necessary. That's not going to change. You got to do it, whether it's, during Cybersecurity Month, which I kind of think is silly, frankly. I think that
Right.
there should be,
Isn't it every month?
right. There should be
Every
no
day?
right. There should be no such thing as Cybersecurity Month. It should be, I think like at a minimum annually, but really it should be at least biannually. But even micro e-learning is fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know that that's enough. Okay. Security fatigue, I think, is caused by what I consider the compliance trap. And I know you guys out there, like, you need hard data. You need numbers. You need to see, like, who's clicking that link. Who is the most vulnerable? Who do I need to, hit over the head with a hammer until they get it, the message, I get that, okay? But bombarding employees with complex, impersonal rules essentially triggers security aversion, okay? That compliance trap is a false sense of security, I think, meeting regulatory requirements while the actual human behavior remains unchanged and vulnerable. Okay. Phishing simulation training is necessary and it's designed to fix the problem of phishing. Okay. And it generally does that pretty well. But what it fails to do is address the human where they're at. And fundamentally, it doesn't really make employees care. Right. And what sometimes happens as a result is we engage in, and this is true, like we just do this, blaming the victim. And in some cases, even shaming the victim, right? And that leads to what I call the silent failure, all right? And this is essentially a compromise of the wetware, like their brain, okay? That triggers no technical alarms and often goes unreported due to the shame barrier. Like they just don't know what to do. They're just stifled.
Right. Yeah, shame creates avoidance too, and not ever behavior change, really.
Exactly. Look at, the shame barrier is that emotional wall that prevents victims from reporting a breach or that they made a mistake. We break this by treating mistakes as data, not causes for termination. And just very recently, speaking to an organization, one of the stakeholders come up to me and said she just had a really good friend of hers who's a mortgage banker for 30 plus years, one of the best in the industry. She's worked with her dozens and dozens of times, was just fired because like one last time she failed the phishing simulation training. And it's like I'm hearing that more and more. And while I get that and I understand that, I don't know that like that training is right for her.
Right.
And she's not the only one. There are millions like her. There's more to do. And that means affecting the human where they're at in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes complete sense. And you said something there that I want to double click on. You said that we just want employees to care about security, right? So what's your model for making people care? Like what has to shift?
Well, the shift needs to begin with understanding and recognizing that, humans in general, they have their worries, they have their fears, they have their concerns. From the beginning, like we already talked about, how they don't look at security as they should. They think it's about paranoia. They function in denial. Like, first, recognizing all of that, okay, and understanding where the employee is in their lives. Okay, starting with that, okay, and then looking at security as, this is my core belief, and this is how I present everything. And I look at security as, all security is personal. It all begins with me. Okay. It all begins with where I am in my life. Personal security fundamentally is physical security at the beginning. It's protecting your being from physical harm. Right. And then from there, it's home security. When you think about it, protecting your home, protecting the people in it, and protecting your stuff. Okay. And when you come from that perspective, certainly, like, what's more personal than protecting your identity? Okay. Your social security number, your name, your address, your phone number, like your most sensitive information, your data, your dollars. And when you present security awareness training from that perspective, the employee begins to, like, kind of pick their head up. And in every presentation that I do, when I walk in the room and I'm introduced, the audience is basically doing this. They have their arms crossed. They look apprehensive. They're kind of scowling at me, and they're looking at me essentially, in their eyes, saying, "Okay, security guy, what are you going to tell me?" And as I make security more about them, what's happening now is they're going, "Oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. This is about me. This is about, like, my security and my life." And what happens is, as the arms go down, then they start to relax. They physically, and I see this happen, this is what I do, they physically lean in, like their physical body actually leans in to the conversation. And as the arms go down, you know what
They're
happens
caring
next?
now.
They're caring now. And you know what else happens physically? As the arms go down, the hands go up, because now they have questions. Now they want to know. Yeah. Now they want to know. Now they're like, okay, this is good. This is not what I thought it was going to be. This is about me. This is about what concerns me. And so, all security is personal is the core belief that people protect what they love. Okay. And by teaching someone to secure their child's digital footprint, their own identity, their home for that matter, you create more secure employees at work. And what I call this, fundamentally, I call this the strategic human firewall. Okay.
Yeah,
And this
I
is
love that.
thank you. This is designed to block deception. It's a proactive governance. It's a governance mindset that turns employees from passive targets to an active detection layer. Try to get that done with phishing simulation. It's the shift from I trust what I see. It's a shift from I trust what I see to I verify everything. That's what you want. Okay. And so, while most security awareness training is, all right. So what I provide is what I consider, it is security awareness training, but truly, from my perspective, it's what I call security appreciation. Okay. It is it's a shift from awareness, which is knowing, to appreciation, which is caring. Okay. And so, when employees appreciate how security protects their own lives, behavior changes permanently. And this is essentially bridging the security appreciation gap. It's that chasm between an employee's intellectual understanding of risk, which is awareness, and the emotional commitment to act on that knowing, which is appreciation, which is caring. And the result of this, and I think you cannot deny that this is good, the kitchen table effect is what I call it. It's the multiplier effect, where successful security awareness training, which in this case, security appreciation training, ends with the employee teaching the concepts to their family, cementing the lessons for life.
Yeah, that's when you know they've really got it, when they can teach it.
Yeah.
No, this is the missing layer, I think. You were the first person I've heard about talking about making it personal and getting people to care, getting employees to care. And I think it's just so practical. It makes so much sense. And it is clearly the missing piece. So I do want to get practical. I want to talk about this strategic human firewall. program. Walk me through, like, if you were hired by a 5,000 employee organization to build a strategic human firewall program, what would that look like? What would the first 30 days look like?
Yeah. So it actually is a lot easier than it might sound. Okay. And it might require just a little bit of effort, but it's easy effort, right? So first, like the initial program or presentation, whether it's like an all hands event that the CISO or others might provide, or, somebody like me who recognizes, effective communication and so forth. So, for example, in California, not too long ago, I spoke to, I'm not going to name the company, a leading semiconductor and wireless technology company, best known for powering like smartphones and tablets, IoT devices. They drive 5G connectivity. They have a bunch of, patents for mobile technologies. You guys can do the math, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke in their auditorium, this beautiful auditorium, in front of 200 of their employees. Okay, just 200. This is a company that has like 5,000, employees worldwide. But those 200 employees were my audience that I was speaking with. It's a dialogue, which is what we do. It's not a monologue where I'm talking at them, telling them what to do, because nobody wants that. It's a conversation we're having where I'm asking them questions, they're asking me questions. We're engaging in a dialogue. Okay, and so those 200 employees act as the voice for the 4,000 people that we were talking to worldwide as the presentation was being broadcast, right? So that right there makes it like an inclusive event for everybody, right? And so those that are in the room are asking questions, and those that are online had the ability to ask questions too. And a moderator is filtering all that stuff out, okay? And so those first 30 days might include like a jump-off point. And then from there, whoever is in charge, whoever does it, whoever engages the audience, begins to communicate with those employees via like email or some type of a newsletter or whatever it is that you do to connect with your people, and just tell stories. Just tell stories about you and your concerns, what you see out there, how it affects your family, how it affects the people that you love. You as the family's CIO, so to speak, how you're always like fixing your mom's computer, and the stuff that you see, and concerns that you have, and by making it personal, coming from your perspective, right? That's something that they're going to want to know more about. When you make yourself more human, and you personalize the stories to situations that concern you, then now they're like, oh, he or she isn't paranoid. They truly just care.
Right.
And here's the deal with that. Like I've been doing what I do truly for about 40 years, professionally for about 30. And I learned a long time ago as a speaker, like somebody said to me, like, back in the Anthony Robbins days, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
And listen, like when we talk about care and we speak to like this, I'm not asking anybody to go out and just start hugging your coworkers and holding their hand, and I'm just asking you to just look at them just a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And when you see that people have these worries and they have these fears, I think that like pretty quickly, you'll recognize that like they just need a little more attention.
Yeah. This is really practical. And, I love what you said about story, because beyond relating to that leader as a human, like just as human beings, we all relate to story. We learn through stories. Stories resonate. We see ourselves in stories. So I love that approach. So practical.
One quick thing about that. So like I'm a dad, right? I'm married 25 years. I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old daughter. And I talk about them in my presentations all the time, and I don't know that. Okay, and I've been talking to my girls about like things like good touches and bad touches, about ever since they were little, right? Because they might go over like a girlfriend's house for a sleepover,
Mm-hmm.
And they should know about these things.
Right.
And I don't know that people have those conversations with people in their lives. These
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable conversations that I have with my family, I have with my audiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that said, like, when I talk about security, my daughter going out with her friends and they might be consuming alcohol, or heck, doing a gummy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heading to a fraternity party. I have the conversations about assault and how to get out of a dangerous situation, and I've taught them all of this stuff. And that those conversations are done like one-on-one, me and them having a dialogue, right? And I don't know that like basic compliance training even attempts to do that. And security can be a scary thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if we present it as if we were having a conversation with our family, I think that you would see dramatic changes in the way in which people look at security all around you.
Yeah, 100%. When we're relating to one another as humans, yes.
Yes.
When it's just a program where we have to check the boxes, nobody's heart is engaged.
Right. Change
Um,
hearts, change minds.
that's right. That's right. Um, I do want to shift into, AI, deepfakes, voice cloning. It's all here. And so I want to connect this to what's changed because, gosh, it's frightening. Voice cloning can now require just like 20 seconds of audio. And then you've got convincing deepfakes that can be created almost instantaneously. So this old idea of just trust what you see with your own eyes or hear with your own ears, that's basically dead.
Yeah.
Right? So speak on that for a minute. What are like some real world scenarios enterprises should be training for right now that most companies probably still aren't preparing their people for?
I think my mom prepared me for all
Mhm.
of this when I was a kid, because she used to say to me growing up, believe nothing of what you hear and
Mhm.
half of what you see. She said that to
Wow.
me all the time, right?
Mhm.
And today, I believe that you should believe nothing of what you hear and pretty much nothing of what you see
Mhm.
either. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like many of us, I might scroll through like an Instagram feed or a Facebook reel. And, between Sora and HeyGen and everything else out
Oh
there,
yeah.
all the various tools that are available to us, you cannot tell the difference between real and fake at
Mhm.
all. 100%, whether it's voice cloning, whether it's AI generated video,
Mhm.
the videos that you're seeing now of the cat playing the piano.
Right.
It is a real cat and it is a real piano and it is a cat playing the piano. It is
Mhm.
not animated. It is not cartoon. It is actual crystal clear, crisp video of that scenario, right?
Yeah.
Or of the ICE agent whose mask is, ripped off of his face in Times Square by, New York law enforcement, and he's screaming at the camera. Those are all humans. That
Mhm.
is Times Square. That
Mhm.
is somebody in fatigues, in a bulletproof vest whose mask is being ripped off of his face, yelling at the camera. It's not what you would consider AI generated, getting millions of clicks, going viral. Like, it's real, is my
Yeah.
point. But it's
Yeah.
fake. It's all
Right.
fake. Okay. So I actually think there is a tremendous amount of opportunity here in that
Mhm.
regard. So AI, deepfakes, voice cloning, as we've discussed, this is the stuff of 007. It's Minority
Mhm.
Report stuff.
Mhm.
It's it's Tom Cruise Mission Impossible
Mhm.
stuff, right?
Yeah, it's
And
here.
I think that this is the perfect opportunity to engage an audience in security appreciation, because this stuff is fun. This
Mhm.
is interesting. This is more than security. This is sci-fi stuff that grabs people's attention. Like, this is all that movie stuff that we've grown up with that's now real. I
Yeah.
think that, like, for me at least, this has completely invigorated the conversation. It's no longer just cybersecurity. It's awesome, is what it
Yeah.
is. Like, it's awesome. And to it's kind of sexy. you know, that might not be the right word, but it is.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
awesome.
it's exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a great opportunity to even like take what you're finding
Mhm.
online and present it as, is it real or is it fake? you know,
Yeah.
and point out the real world scenarios that have and are continuing to happen, such as, and many of you should be aware of, well, starting off with the basics, like, someone grabs your daughter's Instagram feed or her Facebook reel or whatever, her TikTok, and clones her voice. And now they have her, screaming in the background on a phone call when that you receive, and a man who comes on the phone and says, "I have your daughter," and it is your daughter in the background screaming, or at least it's her
Right.
voice, right?
Right.
And playing that for the audience and showing them, like, this is what's actually happening. And that is not real, but it seems real. And how does that make you feel?
Mhm.
And inevitably, every single person in the audience are going to get chills. They get
Yeah.
chills. I know this because this is what I do. And they're
Yeah.
like, you see their faces and their heads like going back and forth, like, no, this can't be real. This is awful. And now, like, you've got this real world scenario that actually affects them. How does this work? How do I know if it's real or if it's fake? Well, let's just say it's fake. So what do you do to essentially prove that it's fake? And of course, we know that, or you should know, that you engage in a dialogue with your family. You engage in a dialogue with all those people. Okay, if this was to ever happen, and actually, like, having this kitchen table discussion, these are
Mhm.
the code words. This is the code phrase that we use, and so forth, right? And then for, like, in the corporate environment, many of you should be aware about what happened. It was just like a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer, in Hong Kong. A
Mhm.
CFO receives a bunch of emails from who he thought were his coworkers. And I'm pretty sure their emails were spoofed. And the CFO receives these communications thinking it's people that he knows, likes, and what? Trusts.
Trust.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he responds to those emails. Okay, yes, because the suggestion was, we need to get on a Zoom, because $25 million needs to be wired out of the company coffers, and we're not doing that until we get online and
Mhm.
talk about it.
Mhm.
And that's what they did. And so organized criminals orchestrated a scenario where, 4 to 6 employees, all AI, real time deep fakes,
Mhm.
get online, having a dialogue via Zoom with an employee who has access to $25 million that was in fact transferred.
Wow.
That scenario needs to be discussed. That is
Yeah.
the boilerplate. That is the template for success, right?
Right.
And so from there, like, between that scenario, the daughter scenario, and showing all the various, like, is it real, is it fake, online videos that they're consuming every day, which
Yeah.
ultimately is a form of entertainment. But what it truly is often misinformation and disinformation. And having those discussions with your peeps, like, nobody's doing that.
Mhm.
Nobody's having those conversations with them.
Yeah.
They need that. Nobody in their lives is capable of doing this other than people like us.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. You've given me so much to think about. I love this. I love doing this podcast because I get to learn so much. And this is so good. And like I said, it's a different conversation than I've had in the past with security leaders. So I really appreciate the conversation. Um, I want to kind of go into AI governance too, because I think that is relevant to what we're talking about. Because AI governance is now, it's got to be part of the security story, whether companies like it or not. So if you're briefing, a CEO or board about human risk, what's the narrative? Like, how do you make it real without sounding alarmist?
Okay, so I might repeat myself a little bit
Yeah.
here, and what I'm about to say might be like easy for some, and it might be
Mhm.
uncomfortable for some. Okay,
Mhm.
and like I said, I might be repeating myself. So, like, I'm asked this question all the time, right? Look, everybody has somebody in their life that is kind of clueless with this
Mhm.
stuff. All
Yeah.
right. So take our parents, for example, the baby boomers, right?
Mhm.
They're being bombarded with phone calls and emails and text messages and pop ups. Like, my dad, not too long ago, got a pop up from who he thought was Apple. And of course, he called the flipping phone number in that pop up to get Apple on the line. He's a big Apple guy, goes to the Apple store all the time for their Genius Bar, and he's Apple, 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 like, which is great,
Mhm.
better than PCs from my standpoint for a 78-year-old, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, like he trusts Apple. So he called the number, which of course is the worst thing to do.
Right.
And so when he called me and he said, I called the number, my reaction was, Dad, you know, like I kind of yelled, Dad, which, you know, I immediately retracted because he's my elderly dad. And
Mm-hmm.
here I am yelling at my father. But, you know, I kind of like calmed down and heard him out. So they're watching late night TV. They're dropping their credit card on vitamins that they don't need, right?
Right.
They're being scammed left and right. Making security personal also means making it personal to those in charge of your budgets. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And by talking about yourself personally and how your mom or your dad, or, you know, maybe like your widowed sister who's being slammed by romance scams and how they are vulnerable. I think that this will help those decision makers to personalize how this affects their own lives. And they begin to see how vulnerable all of their employees are.
Mm-hmm.
And as you kind of shift it towards that, and I know that this like might sound, and I'm honest here, it might sound a little hokey to some of you, right? But listen, truly, security is personal. And when you even make it personal to the decision makers,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like every presentation that I do, you know, people ask me in every presentation that I do, I don't care who the audience is. People ask me, so how do I know what links are okay to click on when I do a Google search?
Mm-hmm.
That is your employees.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. And so, and it might even be your CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when you point stuff like that out, like just how naive people are, and that's not necessarily a bad thing that they're naive. Like that's just most people, you know, how they just don't know what to do, how they worry, how, and you even point out they are looking to us for this.
Yeah.
Then they begin to understand it's more than just, you know, from an engineering perspective. It's more than just this is what the bad actors are up to. This is what I'm. This is like the statistics around what I'm facing every day. It's more than that. You can include that in the dialogue, but you kind of got to break it down to, you know, people.
Yeah. Yeah. So the takeaway really is making it personal, no matter who the audience is, just humanizing it, making it very real and personal to everyone.
This is a human issue.
Yeah.
It's humans doing it. Look at, I've been doing what I do for, you know, like I said, 30, 40 years, right? And I've come to the conclusion, and I have the statistics to back this up. Anybody wants to sit down, I can show them my research. I am pretty confident that 97% of all the people that you will ever meet in the course of your life, 97% are worthy of your trust, which means that they, you know, are good. They have good intentions. They mean no harm, right? Occasionally they might lie. Occasionally they deceive, but in their heart of hearts, they're good. What that also means is that to as much as, and I think it's really 3% of all humans on the planet, 2 to 3% are what the medical community would consider sociopaths and psychopaths. Okay. Essentially, hardcore narcissists that experience no sympathy, no empathy, no guilt, no remorse. I mean, when we say no shame, they have no shame. Okay. So hitting, hurting, harming physically, virtually, stealing, taking from others, bankrupting your mom, seeing your mother homeless on the street, they could care less. They could care less, right?
Yeah.
And it is they who are after, it is that 2 to 3% who make the most noise, who are after your employees, who are after you and your parents and your CEO's parents and so on.
So small percentage, but they do serious
Make a lot of
damage.
noise.
It's just, you know, I think it is hard for most of us to even truly grasp that humans like that exist.
Yeah. And it's a humans on human problem, and it needs a human solution.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. So final question. What's one change an IT leader can make this week? Something super tangible that will instantly reduce the human risk. Like, No new tools, like no big program, just a simple shift that they can take away and implement immediately.
Yeah, and I might be repeating myself again, but
Repetition is good. That's how we learn.
well, thank you. So, like, whether it's whoever presented the all hands on meeting, right?
Mhm.
Uh, that like weekly, just reach out to everybody. The same way that you would regarding sending out a phishing simulation training, but this time make it a little personal,
Mhm.
make it a little closer to home,
Mhm.
right? Talk about a little bit about yourself, the one who's actually sending it, and whoever that might be, whoever's in your charge that might have a gift for gab, a way with words. I mean, heck, you could even like take whatever it is that you write, and you could have AI edit it and clean it up and polish it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
Okay, and really like have that person talk about their own experiences, talk about themselves, the risks that they've faced, the
Mhm.
situations that have affected their lives, have alarmed them, ways in which that 3% has infiltrated their own lives. So
Mhm.
talk about themselves, talk about their families, right? Talk about the risks that they face in their own lives and how their own families are dealing with the exact same things they
Mhm.
are. Again,
Yeah.
make it personal.
Yeah.
Connect with them. These are scared humans that don't know what to do, and they've never had an opportunity to engage with an expert like yourself, listener, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Look, I, I see how people revere teachers and firefighters and law enforcement officers, the first responders like nurses, ambulance drivers, the people that make us safe. Okay. But like, I think the unsung heroes in that story are you, the
Mhm.
company officers, the CISOs of the world. I
Mhm.
am asked every single presentation that I do, somebody comes up to me at the end and they say, "So who's winning? The good guys or the bad guys?"
Mhm.
And I say to them, "Well, of course, the good guys are winning. Of
Mhm.
course they are." And they say, "Well, why do you say that?" And I say, "Because you have electricity, you have a banking system, you
Mhm.
have heat and hot water. You enjoy our critical infrastructures. You are functioning in a functional society where trucks deliver food to a supermarket. The bad guys want us to live as if it is the 1800s. The bad actors want us to be living in the dirt with zero civil society accessible to us. So it is the unsung heroes are those company officers that are responsible for protecting their networks and our critical infrastructures. They truly are the heroes.
Mhm.
And I don't know that anybody truly gives any of you the credit that you deserve. I recently applied for a loan
Mhm.
through a bank. And when it came to, okay, so what is your employment? What is your profession? There was zero opportunity to list anything that had anything to do with cybersecurity. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't even considered a profession. You see
Right.
what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like the entire financial institution did not look at the profession that I'm in as a legitimate profession. Like it just wasn't even listed.
Yeah.
Teacher was, firefighter was, police
Yeah.
officer
I
was,
think those lists are terribly outdated.
terribly.
Yeah.
And so like again, and this is important, like nothing that I'm asking of anybody is to like, hold your employees' hands. I just think that there is a tremendous amount of opportunity to guide, cajole, maybe direct a little bit, and to point to a degree where people begin to appreciate security for the value that it has in their personal lives first and
Mhm.
then their professional lives, and you'll start to see the needle moving in the direction that you want when you are engaging in that compliance training.
So good. So make it personal. Robert, thank you. This conversation matters because, security isn't failing because IT leaders don't care, because CISOs don't care. It's failing because most employees just don't really understand the risk and it's not real. And even as you were speaking, I could feel myself leaning in, even through the camera. So I appreciate you. And if you're listening and you lead IT or security, I'd encourage you to share this episode with your team, not as compliance, but as protection, because you know, this stuff, deep fakes, voice cloning, they're not coming. They're already here. And if you want to connect with Robert directly, head to technologymatch.com and search Robert Siciliano or Strategic Human Firewall. His landing page will pop right up. We'll also link Robert's LinkedIn and his website, protectnowllc.com, in the show notes, so you could reach him there as well. Robert, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.